The lunch rush at River and Birch Cafe rattles like a storm. Cups clink, steam hisses, orders blur, when Hannah Brooks spots a little girl by the pastry case, hands fluttering in terrified signs. Milk. Dad. Lost. Hannah kneels, signing softly, "It's okay. I'll help." Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. Hannah Brooks moved fast behind the counter of River and Birch Cafe, the kind of busy downtown spot where the morning rush felt like a tidal wave. People shouted orders, espresso steamed, and the city outside shook with traffic. Hannah didn't mind the chaos. She liked people. She liked helping. But today, something cut through the noise, a small, frantic tapping on the pastry case. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, stood alone near the counter. Her hands moved quickly, not in random panic, but in shapes Hannah recognized immediately. Sign language. Broken, rushed, scared. Milk. Dad. Scared. Hannah's heart jolted. Childhood afternoons spent signing with her deaf cousin came back instantly. She stepped away from the register without thinking. "Hey, sweetheart," she whispered, kneeling. She signed slowly, clearly. "Are you lost? I can help." The girl's shoulders finally dropped, relief washing over her small face. She pointed toward the door just as a man in a slate-gray suit burst in, panic flashing across his eyes. "Lily," he breathed, scooping the child into his arms. The resemblance was immediate, father and daughter, reunited. But before Hannah could even smile at the moment, a voice sliced across the cafe. "Hannah." Her manager, Derek Fulton, stormed toward her, clipboard tucked under his arm like a weapon. "You left your station. Again. You're done here. Clean out your locker." Hannah blinked. "Derek," she was scared. She needed. "I said you're fired." The cafe froze. Lily clung to her father's coat, eyes filling with tears. The suited man looked from his daughter, to Hannah, to Derek. And in that quiet, heavy moment, the world seemed to shift. Outside, snow dusted the sidewalk, and Hannah stepped into the freezing wind with her apron folded in her hands, job gone, rent looming, dignity bruised. Then a warm voice behind her said, "Miss, please wait." She turned. It was Lily's father. And nothing about the way he looked at her felt ordinary. Snowflakes drifted sideways across the sidewalk as Hannah hugged her thin coat tighter. Losing a job was one thing. Being fired for helping a frightened child, that hurt in a place she didn't have armor. "Hannah Brooks?" The voice was calm, steady, and close. She turned. The man from the cafe, tall, mid-40s, polished suit, the kind of presence that made people straighten their posture, was standing beside his daughter. Lily peered up at Hannah with shy trust. "I'm Christopher Lane," he said. "This is my daughter, Lily. Anne." I saw what really happened in there. His tone carried quiet gratitude, not pity. "Could we talk for a moment?" Hannah blinked, breath catching in the cold air. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." She was lost. "I just did what anyone—" "Not anyone," Christopher interrupted gently. "Most people walked past her." Lily tugged her father's sleeve, signing something quickly. Christopher nodded, then translated softly. "She says, you helped her feel safe." The words warmed Hannah more than the code ever could. Christopher hesitated, searching for the right measure of honesty. "I don't want this moment to end on the sidewalk," he said. "Would you come with us? Just for a few minutes?" Hannah's instincts flared. She didn't know him, not really. But the sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, no pressure, no agenda, just a man trying to make sense of something important. "Where would we be going?" she asked quietly. Christopher pointed to a black car idling at the curb. To my office. Lane Tower is only 7 blocks away. I promise you're safe. I promise we'll talk openly. Lily reached out and touched Hannah's hand, small and warm despite the cold. Helped me, she signed. Hannah swallowed. She had nowhere else to be, fired, broke, future uncertain. But something about this moment felt like a door opening, not closing. All right, she whispered. Christopher opened the car door for her. Lily slid in first, smiling as if she'd known Hannah forever. As the city lights blurred past the windows, Hannah didn't yet realize. This short car ride would change her entire life. The elevator shot upward through Lane Tower, its glass walls revealing the sprawling winter city below. Hannah stood between Christopher and Lily, her heart thudding with a nervous rhythm she couldn't mask. She'd never been inside a corporate skyscraper. Certainly not one owned by a man whose face occasionally appeared on the business news screens at the bus stop. When the doors opened on the 42nd floor, a world of hushed carpeting, soft lights, and framed accessibility awards stretched in front of them. Christopher led them into a conference room where a folder already lay on the table, as if this meeting had been waiting for her long before she arrived. Please sit, Christopher said gently. Hannah lowered herself into the chair like she was afraid it might reject her. Christopher remained standing, hands resting on the back of the chair across from her. My daughter is deaf, he began. You noticed her panic faster than anyone in that cafe. You communicated with her without hesitation. Do you know how rare that is? Hannah flushed. I grew up signing. My cousin. You did something more than sign, he cut in softly. You cared. He moved to the head of the table, pressing a button. The screen behind him lit up with a slide titled Lane Hotel's Accessibility Initiative, Phase 2. Hannah stared. What is this? We've been expanding accessibility services across all our hotels, he explained. Visual alerts, silent check-in, inclusive communication training. But there's something still missing, someone who understands both the language and the human side. Someone who doesn't see disability as an inconvenience, someone who makes people feel seen. He met her eyes. We need someone to help lead the liaison program. Someone who can train staff. Someone like you. Hannah's breath stumbled. Me? I make coffee. You make people feel safe, Christopher corrected. That's far harder. Before she could absorb that, the conference door swung open. Derek Fulton, her former manager, stepped in, red-faced and defensive. Mr. Lane, he blurted, there's been a misunderstanding. She abandoned her post. Christopher raised a hand. Security has already pulled the footage. The screen behind him changed. There she was, kneeling beside Lily. There was Lily, signing for help. There was Derek, dismissing the moment entirely. The truth was undeniable. Hannah's stomach twisted as Derek paled. Christopher's voice sharpened. This company believes in care before control. You failed that standard. Derek opened his mouth to speak. Escort him out, Christopher said quietly. Security appeared almost instantly. Derek's glare burned into Hannah as he was guided away, but for the first time, she didn't shrink. Because someone powerful finally saw what she had done, and why. Silence settled over the conference room once Derek's footsteps disappeared down the hall. Hannah exhaled shakily, unsure whether she wanted to cry, or run. Christopher, however, simply closed the laptop and offered her the gentlest look she'd seen all day. I'm sorry you had to go through that, he said. But I'm glad the truth is now clear. Lily hopped off her chair, walking over to Hannah and signing something with quick, certain hands. Christopher translated with a faint smile. She says she wants you to work with us. Hannah felt her pulse flutter, fragile as a candle flame. I don't know if I'm. You are, Christopher said quietly. More than you realize. Before she could answer, the conference room door burst open again, but this time it wasn't security or Derek. It was a young barista from the cafe, out of breath, coat half-zipped. Hannah, someone called child services. They're looking for you. Hannah froze. What? Why? They said you grabbed a stranger's kid. That you scared her. Lily gasped, shaking her head violently. She immediately signed lie over and over, tiny fists trembling with anger. Christopher straightened, voice hardening. Who made the call? The barista swallowed. Derek. He did it the minute he walked out the door. As if on cue, a pair of social workers stepped into the doorway, badges visible, expressions formal. Hannah Brooks, the older one asked. Hannah felt her legs weaken. Yes. We received a report about an altercation involving a minor. We need to ask you a few questions. Hannah opened her mouth, but her voice barely existed. Christopher stepped forward, calm but unshakable. You'll ask your questions here. I will provide all evidence you require. The social workers exchanged glances. We'll still need to speak with the child. Lily stepped proudly between them, small but fierce. She signed in rapid bursts. She helped me. I was lost. Scared. She stayed. She was kind. The social workers watched, unsure, until Christopher interpreted clearly and firmly. Then he pressed a button. Footage appeared on the screen again, every detail, every angle, undeniable. Silence hung heavy. The older social worker finally exhaled. This report was malicious. You're cleared, Miss Brooks. We're very sorry for the distress. Hannah nodded weakly, barely processing anything through the haze of adrenaline. As they left, Christopher turned to her. You're not alone here, he said softly. You didn't do anything wrong. And for the first time in years, she believed someone. Christopher led Hannah and Lily down a wide hallway lined with glass walls and framed blueprints of New Lane Hotel's projects. Hannah walked stiffly, her nerves still frayed from the social worker's visit. She kept expecting someone to burst out of a doorway and accuse her again. But Lily stayed at her side, small fingers brushing against Hannah's hand every few steps, silent reassurance from the one person who knew the truth better than anyone. When they reached a set of tall double doors, Christopher paused. I'd like you to join me in the demonstration room, he said. We're unveiling our accessibility program to the press today. You don't have to speak, but I'd like you there. Me? Hannah blinked. Why? Christopher's voice softened. Because you represent the point of the whole initiative, kindness without hesitation. Before she could respond, the doors opened. Flashbulbs. Microphones. Cameras aimed like searchlights. Reporters murmured the moment they noticed Christopher Lane, the Christopher Lane, enter with two people behind him, one clearly his daughter, and the other a nervous woman clutching a locker bag to her chest. Is this about the cafe incident? Someone shouted. Is she joining the program? Another asked. Who is she to your daughter? Hannah shrank back, but Christopher rested a calming hand near her shoulder. Please, he said to the room. You'll hear everything shortly. He guided her to a spot beside the podium, close enough to show she belonged there. The presentation began, visual menus, silent alert systems, staff inclusion tools, and Christopher spoke with the smooth, practiced certainty of a man who rarely faced a question he couldn't answer. Then a reporter raised a hand. Mr. Lane, is it true this woman was fired for helping your daughter? Hannah's breath caught. Christopher nodded. It is. Gasps rippled through the room. And what would you say, the reporter pressed, to those who claim she interfered or acted inappropriately? Before Christopher could reply, Lily tugged Hannah's sleeve and signed something up at her. Christopher smiled faintly. She says she wants Miss Brooks to speak for herself. Hannah froze, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Me? Speak? I'm not good with cameras. You're good with truth, Christopher said quietly. Hannah stepped up to the microphone. 100 eyes watched her, waiting. She swallowed hard. I helped a scared child, she said simply. If that's a problem, then maybe we need more problems like that. The room erupted, shutters clicking, murmurs rising, someone whispering, "That's going viral." Hannah stepped back, breathless, shaky, but alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. And Christopher was looking at her like she'd just proven something he already suspected. The applause faded into a hum of shuffling reporters as Christopher gently guided Hannah and Lily out of the press room. Cameras still flashed behind them, but the hallway beyond was quiet, too quiet for how fast Hannah's heart was racing. I can't believe I said that, she whispered, cheeks warm. You said exactly what needed to be said, Christopher replied. They entered a smaller boardroom overlooking the city, glass walls, a long oak table, a skyline soaked in cold winter light. An assistant had already placed a folder neatly at the center seat. Across the front. Hannah Brooks, Accessibility Liaison, Provisional. Hannah stared at her name as if it belonged to someone braver. This is yours to review, Christopher said, pulling out a chair for her. It's a 90-day introductory contract. Full salary, health benefits, training support, and the authority to help design the communication program with my operations team. Hannah's fingers brushed the folder, hesitant. This can't be real, she murmured. I lost my job an hour ago. No, Christopher said quietly, you were punished for kindness an hour ago. That's not the same thing. Lily crawled into the chair beside Hannah and signed something softly. Christopher translated. You helped me. Let us help you. Hannah's throat tightened. She flipped open the folder, but before her eyes could even scan the first paragraph, the boardroom door flew open with a bang. A security officer stepped inside. Behind him, her fired manager, Derek Fulton. You can't do this. Derek barked, pointing at Hannah. She grabbed a stranger's kid. She endangered the cafe. I made a report. You made a false report, Christopher cut in, voice like ice. And you involved child services out of spite. That's not, Derek sputtered. She's lying. I can speak for myself, Hannah said shakily, rising to her feet. I helped your customer's child because she was scared and alone. That's it. If compassion violates your rules, then your rules are broken. Derek turned red. She violated protocol. So did you, Christopher snapped. By filing a malicious complaint, endangering a child, and wasting state resources. You'll be contacted by legal. The guard stepped closer. Derek's face twisted from fury to something close to fear. This isn't over, Derek hissed at Hannah as he backed toward the hallway. Christopher nodded once to security. Make sure it is. The door closed. Silence returned, heavy, electric, life-changing. Hannah looked down at the contract again, breath shivering. Christopher's voice softened. You deserve a place where doing the right thing is rewarded, not punished. Hannah met his eyes. For the first time all day, she believed that might be true. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The city stretched beyond the glass like a frozen tide, cars inching, lights blinking, people rushing through a world where no one knew that Hannah Brooks' entire life had almost been destroyed twice in the same afternoon. She sank slowly back into her chair. Her legs felt numb, as if they were waiting for permission to belong in a room like this. Christopher checked on Lily, then turned to the two social workers who had quietly stepped into the boardroom behind security. We'd like to finalize our report, the older one said softly. If now is a good time. Hannah stiffened. Am I still being investigated? The younger worker shook her head. Not anymore. But we need to document the conclusion. She sat across from Hannah, voice gentle in a way that felt like mercy. Miss Brooks, the child confirms she asked for help. The footage confirms you acted appropriately. The father confirms full consent. You are fully cleared. The older worker added, we apologize for the distress. False reports are taken seriously. Hannah nodded, throat tight. Thank you. Lily tugged her sleeve and signed something, hands slow and deliberate. You're safe now. Christopher translated, but Hannah already understood. The child's sincerity nearly broke her. The social workers gathered their things. Before leaving, the older one added quietly, if more people acted like you, Miss Brooks, we'd get a lot fewer calls. The door shut behind them. Hannah let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. It felt like the first lungful of air after being underwater too long. Christopher stepped closer to the table. You handled yourself well, he said. No, Hannah whispered. I nearly fell apart. That's what strength looks like sometimes, he replied. Holding on anyway. She looked at the contract again. Every page felt heavier than the last, responsibility, opportunity, trust. It wasn't a job. It was a doorway. What if I'm not the right person, she asked quietly. What if I fail? What if people think I don't belong? Christopher's expression softened, deep and sincere. Hannah, the only people who don't belong here are the ones who treat kindness as a weakness. And you're the opposite of that. Lily reached across the table, small fingers resting on Hannah's hand. We choose you, she signed. A soft knock interrupted the moment. Priya, Christopher's operations counsel, peeked inside. Press is asking for a closing quote and confirmation on Miss Brooks' role, she said. Shall we announce? Hannah felt her heart jump. Christopher looked at her, not pressuring, just waiting. The decision was hers. Priya's question lingered in the air like a held breath. Shall we announce? Hannah stared at the contract, its clean lines, its promise, its weight. The room felt too big around her, as if she were sitting in someone else's life, wearing someone else's future. I don't know if I'm ready, she murmured. Christopher didn't sit. He crouched beside her chair, leveling himself with her trembling uncertainty. No one is ever fully ready for the good things, he said. Only for the painful ones. But you walked into both today, and you didn't run. Hannah gave a shaky little laugh. I almost did. But you didn't, he said. That matters. Lily slipped off her chair and came to stand between them. She lifted her hands and signed slowly, carefully, wanting her message to be perfect. You helped me. Let me help you. Please stay. Hannah's eyes burned. She wiped quickly, embarrassed, but Christopher's expression held only quiet encouragement. Still, a flicker of doubt rose. What if people think you're hiring me out of pity? Or publicity? Christopher straightened, his tone quiet but firm. I don't hire out of pity. And if I wanted publicity, I wouldn't have come to you personally, I'd have let PR handle everything. He nodded toward Lily. My daughter trusts you. That alone is worth more to me than any headline or campaign. Hannah looked again at the contract. Her name felt unreal on the page. Hannah, Priya added gently, you're not stepping into something you have to navigate alone. You'd have a team, support, training. We're offering this because you fit what we've been searching for. Silence washed over the room. Then Hannah inhaled, bracing herself, and said softly. Okay. Let's announce it. Christopher's smile warmed instantly, it wasn't triumphant, just deeply relieved. Priya nodded. I'll inform the press room. She slipped out the door, leaving Hannah with a pen in her hand. Her hand trembled as she hovered over the signature line. Her whole life, people had told her she was too soft, too trusting, too willing to help. But right now, those were the exact qualities she was being trusted for. She pressed the pen down. Signed her name. The moment the ink dried, applause erupted, from behind her. The door had opened quietly. Staff members from the accessibility team, assistants, and even a few of the executives had gathered, watching. Lily cheered silently, hands waving above her head. Christopher exhaled, a soft smile breaking through the stress of the day. "You just changed this company," he said. And, he added gently, "you just changed your life." The applause faded into warm murmurs as the crowd slowly dispersed, leaving Hannah standing in the boardroom with her signed contract still warm beneath her fingertips. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She had just stepped into a brand new world, one she never imagined would include skyscrapers, boardrooms, or a CEO who looked at her like she was more than a face in a crowd. Christopher approached her with Lily in tow. "We'll start with something simple," he said gently. "A tour of the flagship hotel. Tomorrow morning. No pressure, just observing, getting familiar." "Tomorrow," Hannah echoed, half dazed. "Just like that?" Christopher smiled. "Everything meaningful begins with a first step." Then he surprised her. He didn't offer his hand for a formal shake. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging her courage in the way a friend would, not a billionaire. Lily signed something quickly, her hands bright and animated. Christopher laughed softly. "She says you need hot chocolate to celebrate. And she insists." Hannah's chest warmed. "I think I do too." They headed toward the hallway, but before they reached the door, a man in a navy suit and badge hurried up, slightly winded. "Mr. Lane, corporate from River and Birch Cafe is requesting a call. Regarding Miss Brooks." Hannah tensed instinctively. Christopher's brows rose. "Put it through." A few moments later, the speakerphone crackled. A polished voice came on, tight, apologetic, and painfully corporate. "Mr. Lane, we've reviewed the situation. There was a severe lapse in managerial judgment. We'd like to issue Miss Brooks a written apology and invite her back." Hannah blinked. "Invite me back?" "To your previous role, yes," the voice said quickly. "With a schedule adjustment and a small raise." Christopher's expression didn't change, but something in the air behind him sharpened. Hannah almost laughed. "Almost. After everything today? After being fired for helping a child? After being falsely accused? After being humiliated publicly?" "I appreciate the apology," Hannah said carefully. "But I've accepted another offer." "Oh, may we ask where?" the caller stammered. Christopher pressed a hand lightly on the table, leaning toward the speaker. "With me," he said simply. The line went silent. Then a strangled, "understood," and the call ended. Hannah released a breath she'd been holding since morning. Christopher's voice softened. "No one deserves to be treated like you were. Today wasn't just about righting a wrong. It was about finding someone who should have been seen long ago." Hannah swallowed hard, emotion tightening her throat. "Thank you, for believing in me." "Kindness deserves belief," he replied. Lily slipped her hand into Hannah's. "We go now?" She signed. Hannah smiled, genuinely this time. "Yeah. Let's go." Together, they walked out of the boardroom, past the glass walls, past the echoes of the press room, into the glowing lobby where the future waited, bright and full of promise. The next morning dawned bright over the city, sunlight scattering across Lane Tower's glass facade like a promise. Hannah clutched a notebook to her chest as she stepped into the lobby of the flagship Lane Hotel. Her stomach fluttered with nerves, but it wasn't fear anymore, it was possibility. Christopher waited near the reception desk, dressed in his usual slate-gray suit, but today his demeanor was lighter, warmer. Lily stood beside him, hair in a neat ponytail, a tiny backpack shaped like a cat swinging at her side. "There you are," Christopher said, his smile reaching his eyes. "Ready for your first day?" Hannah breathed in deeply. "As ready as I'll ever be." They started the tour. The front desk. The quiet rooms. The visual alert-equipped suites. The staff lounge where employees learned how to welcome guests who communicated differently. Hannah observed, asked questions, scribbled notes. And every time she hesitated, Lily slipped her hand into hers and signed something small and encouraging. When they reached the training space, a bright room filled with posters, tablets, and sample menus, Christopher stopped. "This," he said, "will be your classroom." Hannah stared at the sunlight flooding the tables, the tools waiting for hands to learn them. "I'm really doing this," she whispered. "You're already doing it," Christopher replied. "You gave my daughter safety. You gave her a voice in a world that often forgets to listen. I want every guest who needs help to get what Lily got from you." Lily stepped forward holding something behind her back. She pulled it out shyly, a handmade card. Crayon drawings filled the page, 3 stick figures. One tall man, one small girl, and a woman with brown hair signing welcome in big, careful shapes. Hannah bit her lip hard, overwhelmed. "Lily, this is beautiful." Lily smiled so wide her eyes nearly disappeared. A few minutes later, the first training session began. Housekeepers, front desk clerks, bellhops, security staff, they all gathered, curious and open. Hannah stood at the front of the room and lifted her hands. "Good morning," she signed slowly. Then she spoke it aloud. "Good morning." She introduced the basics of fingerspelling, greetings, and emergency signals. At first the room was nervous, stiff. Then someone signed, "Thank you," with 2 shaky hands and everyone laughed softly. The entire atmosphere shifted, lighter, kinder, human. Christopher watched from the doorway. Pride warmed his face. Not corporate pride. Human pride. As the session wrapped up, the lobby began to glow with evening light. Travelers checked in. Staff greeted them with new signs, hesitant but trying, echoing Hannah's lesson. Something inside her settled. Not comfort. Not relief. Purpose. Christopher approached as staff dispersed. "You did well. Better than well." Hannah exhaled. "Feels like something I was supposed to do." "It is," he said. Lily ran over and hugged Hannah's waist. Hannah looked down, brushing the girl's hair gently. A lost child had led her here. A single moment of kindness had rewritten her life. As they walked across the warm, glowing lobby, Hannah, Lily, and Christopher, the world felt softer, more possible. Behind them, a staff member signed welcome to a guest checking in. And Hannah realized. Kindness wasn't just something she offered. It was something she could build, a career, a program, a future. A life. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.